So for excerpt 1, we want to make sure we're doing lots of dynamics, really big contrasts, and we want to make sure we're playing in tune. We also want to make sure we're playing the right bowings. So I'm just going to outline the process that I would recommend my students go through, and you watching if you're not one of my students. Okay, so we have a lot of eighth notes with different bowings. We're in F major, so 1 flat. We should be well acquainted with that if we've practiced our scales, our F major scale. Just a friendly little reminder, we have a B flat, so that means we have low 2s on all of our strings except for C. C we have a high 2, so high 2 on C, low 2s everywhere else, and we have a B flat on our first finger on A, so we have a low 1 on A. Okay, so first I recommend making sure you're playing all the right notes. That is a step that a lot of students forget to fully do. They make sure they're playing 75% of all the right notes, and then the remaining 25% gets panic practice at the last second. So we don't want to panic practice. It's not fun. I don't like panicking. I don't think you like panicking. So let's start off the right way. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice finger before bow. So you might have seen this in one of my other videos, but I'll just talk about it again. So finger before bow is a really helpful tool I use, and I encourage my students to use, where we separate the action of moving the bow and putting the finger down. So if I were to practice finger before bow in excerpt 1, I wouldn't worry about any of the bowings. I'm just making sure the notes are right. So we go. So on and so forth. So you can see that I put my finger down and then I move the bow. Place. Or I played the wrong notes, but place, 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 place. So this might be a little bit grating sometimes. It's very slow, diligent practice, but it pays off really well. So it pays off, it solves 2 problems that happen a lot. The first thing it solves is it forces you to make sure you know what all the notes are. So we don't want to go in playing a note that we didn't realize was wrong. Also, we just want you to feel confident. I want not only your brain to know what the notes are, I want your fingers to know what the notes are. Our brains are much quicker at learning things than our muscles are. So we need to spend more time teaching our fingers what the right notes are. That way you only have to do 1 or 2 recordings as opposed to 50, because you can't get the darn notes right. So the second thing it solves is slidey fingers. So when we're practicing and maybe it's a little bit more of a challenging piece of music for us, sometimes we slide our fingers around and we're using our ears to see, okay, that note sounds wrong, I'm going to slide it around to see if it's the right note. And believe it or not, it actually does not count as playing in tune. When you slide your notes around, slide your fingers around, it's really obvious to the listener, and it makes you sound like you can't play in tune as well as you probably are capable of. So again, that's why practicing finger before bow can be so helpful. Okay, so once you are super solid about what your notes are, then we're going to add the bowings. But the bowings can also be tricky. We can get mixed up with our bowings. So how I recommend you start with the bowings is we do finger before bow, and we add bow stops in the direction of the slur. So for example, the first measure we have down, up, down, up. Now if I was having trouble getting the hang of this bowing pattern, I would practice finger before bow with bow stops in the direction of the slur. So I go down, up, up, down, down, up, up, so on and so forth. Once I get a pretty good handle on where the bow directions are, then I can add the regular bowings as they're written. Now, I would encourage you, after doing the finger before bow portion of your practice, I would encourage you to practice a little bit slower than the recommended tempo marking. Then, once you're really comfortable playing at that slower tempo, then you can work up with the metronome and play at the required tempo or suggested tempo. All right, so good luck. Happy practicing. So Excerpt 2 is all about dynamics and how you can save and spend your bow to show those dynamics. Now, I didn't talk about dynamics in the first video about Excerpt 1. Dynamics are also very important in Excerpt 1. Really make sure you exaggerate your dynamics. In general, dynamics seem more extreme when we're playing them under our ear. It might seem to you like you're making a really obvious crescendo from piano to fortissimo, but you might not be. Because of the way sound works, all of your dynamics are more intense under your ear than they are to the person listening. So you really want to make sure if you feel like you're doing too much of a contrast, that's probably just the right amount of contrast. Okay, so Excerpt 2, we're starting pianissimo on an up bow. That's, I think, a perfect example for a place to start at the tip. So we want to really make sure that our third position hand frame is ready. So we know we have a G, an F natural, an E, and a D. You want to have your fingers kind of already in that spot, ready to go. So we start at the tip and we play. We play at the really close to the fingerboard, a little bit faster bow, a little more air. We don't want to play in the middle of the string when we're playing pianissimo. When we're playing in the middle of the string at such a low tempo or such a low dynamic, it sounds like we're scared, not like we're playing pianissimo on purpose. So really stay close to the fingerboard and nice, airy, fast bow. Okay, so at the end of the first line, we get our first swell. We get our first change of dynamic. So with crescendos and diminuendos, I like to follow a general rule where the first several notes, or the first notes of the crescendo, we're saving a ton. And then the last note of the crescendo, we're using the rest of our bow. So most of the bow goes on the last note of the crescendo. You want to delay crescendos and you want to delay crescendos and diminuendos. You want to diminuendo faster. So as you can see, the top of the crescendo, so less bow, most bow, less bow. So if you're having a hard time dividing your bow this way, if you're having a hard time saving enough bow at the beginning or at the end if it's a diminuendo, you can always practice with stop bows where you can control how much bow each note gets. So if I'm having a hard time getting that crescendo, I'll go, okay, got to stay above the upper half, cool, and then the rest. So if you stop your bow and give each note how much it's supposed to get for the length of the diminuendo or crescendo, it'll help you to use your bow in a way that will really make those dynamics come out. All right, so down in the second line, we have a sforzando, and then after that it says upper half. So this little section is all about how much can you save your bow. Okay, so I'm going to start on measure 30. So we have a long crescendo over 2 measures, so we don't want to crescendo too much at the beginning. That last A is going to get the loudest note. So we're going to get all the way to the tip, and then we're going to do a quick sforzando, and then after the sforzando, we're going to save as much bow as we can because it says upper half. You want to be in the upper half here so that you can be in the right part of the bow for measure 34 when we're back to pianissimo. So this is how much bow you're going to save. So it was a loud sforzando, but the way I was able to save my bow and still keep the volume up was I moved the bow closer to the bridge now. So piano dynamics are good for playing in the near the fingerboard. Forte dynamics are good for playing near the bridge. So you can see I'm super close. And then as soon as it diminuendos, I move my bow away from the bridge. All right. And then after that, we have a diminuendo, and it's pianissimo the rest of the time through. So you'll want to move back to the fingerboard area. All right. Happy practicing. Good luck.